Hey, coach, has got a fantastic guest tonight. Brad Ellingsworth is the head football coach at Sussex High School in Delaware. Did I say it right?
Yeah, Sussex Tech. Yep.
Pretty good for a Southern boy. All
Yeah.
right, and Brad runs a fantastic YouTube channel, and I came across his was that the last one, the conditioning one? Was that your last? And just a common sense, smart way of doing simple better, which I'm always a fan of. And I told Brad, Ron Mackey, when I was first starting out, he caught my channel and he helped me promote it and get me rolling. So I always like when I come across someone who's doing a great job to try to give them a little boost. I can't give you the biggest boost as Ron can, but I can give you a little boost. But I love the way you think, and I even love you. You're going to go over some wing tee, belly buck, how you practice it. And I'm looking forward to seeing it because it just sounds smart. Being efficient is just so important to all of us right now. But I want you to talk about your channel first because I think you do a great job at it, and I want you to promote it and tell everyone about it.
Yeah, Coach. First off, I appreciate you having me on. I've watched a ton of your videos, and I've been a fan of your channel for a while now. So again, I appreciate you having me on. Um, it was funny when I got the job. In COVID, we couldn't work out. We couldn't do anything. So I was really bored, and I was like, I love talking ball. And all these inspirational coaches like yourself have YouTube channels. Like, you know what? I can sit in front of a camera and talk some ball too, and see what happens. So that's really how it happened. But yeah, my YouTube channel, Coach E. Check it out if you want some interesting content. And I appreciate you, Coach.
Well, I appreciate you, and I told you, and I wasn't joking. Brad's first year was the COVID year, so I told him from here on out, man, it's going to be easy sailing. If you get through the COVID year as your very first year as a head coach, it's going to be a smooth ride from there. So appreciate you being on here, man, and I'm super excited about hearing your presentation because, like I said, I just like the way you think, man. So share your screen and let's do this thing, man.
Let's do it. Let me pull her up. Okay. Let me see if I can. All right. So there's just my email. If at any point in time you want to shoot me a question, and my YouTube channels we already talked about. So again, we're going to talk about using stations to efficiently practice your sweep series and your belly series. And again, it's important. I like these because it's important because in the wing tee, they're all families. They're a family of plays, and so I like utilizing the stations so that it's really visual for the kids. But anyways, I like to give presentation agenda so everybody knows what's in front of them in case they find me boring and they want to skip to the heart of the presentation or whatever. But so I'm going to talk about some advantages, just some real quick top 3 or 4 advantages to running these stations, some prerequisites that you're going to need. I'm going to give you like a logistical breakdown of organizationally how to run it in a visual, a really bad drawing because I can't draw, but a really bad drawing of how it should look on the field, or at least how we do it. Then I'm going to go to huddle. I got a little huddle presentation, no film clips. Unfortunately, I haven't filmed any practice, but of the stations and the coaching point at each station. And then I have some sample practice plans to show you how we fit it into our practice, and then just a couple closing thoughts. So I'll go ahead and get rolling on that. To talk about advantages to using stations, I'm a guy that I cannot stand, number one, standing around at practice. You got kids, the old T-ball where they're out there picking grass, and just anytime kids are standing around, it's not a good deal. And so I believe it maximizes repetitions and participation. I think it's a great way to get just about everybody involved. And that brings me to my second point. This sounds bad, but I don't mean it to sound bad. It forces your coaches to coach. And what I mean by that is your coaches are going to have to be responsive. There's a lot of working parts here. So you're going to have a lot of coaches on your staff that are going to be responsible for things. So they're going to be involved too. Sometimes I've been a part of staffs where we have some issues where, we get a little cliquey and we talk and we this can totally avoid that because everybody's doing something. Everybody gets involved from players to coaches. So that's one huge advantage that I see in it. The third advantage that I love, it puts focus on small details of the play. Um, in terms of, we're running just trap. We got three coaches down there focused on trap. So if we want to talk about that fullback's first step as a crossover step on the midline and he's running down the pipe, we can really harp on that. We got three coaches down there to really focus on that. So I think it's like, the teacher in me. You get your small group, you get your better teacher to student ratio. So I think it can put a focus on the small details of the play. And a little wing T specific, I think it helps players understand the play families. Why is it important for me when I'm running belly to get into my option phase quickly? Or they can see when they run through sweep, trap, waggle, that really all these steps are either the same or similar and why they're that way. And I think when players understand the why, it doesn't really matter what offensive scheme or defensive scheme you're doing. I think when players understand the why, there's a little better buy-in. So those are the key advantages that I see in using these stations. Me being honest, here's some prerequisites that I believe you're going to need in order to do this. You are going to need manpower. I'm being transparent. You're going to need some manpower. You probably, to really run this effectively, you're going to need 8 to 9 coaches. You could probably get away with 5 coaches, but if you really want to run it effectively, you're going to need probably 8 to 9 coaches. And I'm fortunate. We do have 12 coaches on staff. So this was a little easier for us to do, but manpower is definitely going to be a prerequisite. The next one was a big one for me. You're going to need to trust your coaches. You're going to need to trust your coaches. You can't, whether you're the head coach or the offensive coordinator that's organizing this and putting it together, you can't be everywhere. And, it's a good learning experience for me. We all are very egotistical as coaches and we like to kind of control everything, but you're going to need to trust that, the guys down there at the trap station or the waggle station know what they're doing and are doing the things that you want. And the next thing is communication and organization. This is a little bit of if you've never done it, it's a little bit of a heavy lift to get off the ground. I think we transitioned to a wing tee our last week of the year. We have been kind of slowly transitioning out of the gun and into an under center wing tee. And so the Sunday meeting before we got into this, I think I spent probably 45 minutes just talking about what I'm presenting today, about how to run these stations, because it's a lot of working parts and everybody has to be on the same page. And then, you're going to need your equipment, your play strips, your barrels, your hand shields, that good stuff. So those are some prereqs that you're going to need to do this. Let me see. Okay. So how we run it in the beginning of the year, we if we're going to do our buck series and our belly series in the same day, you're going to do it in 2 20-minute periods. Probably in the beginning of the year is what we take. And then later in the year where you're not necessarily bird dogging everything to begin, you can probably do it in 2 15-minute periods. Again, the next one's probably the teacher and me, allowing 5 minutes for each group and 1 minute transition times. I think if you've ever been a coach, you made a practice schedule and you're like, where in the hell did the time go? It's probably because you didn't, account for transition time. So I like to do that. The third one's important. The same groups are going to travel together to each station to develop chemistry. And I think chemistry is important in any offense, but especially the wing tee when the backfield action is so precise. You got backs going, one way, every which way. It's very important for them to develop chemistry. So I think this is a good way. So your first quarterback will travel with your first backs, your first center, your first guards, so they can get all those reps together. Your tackles and tight ends will have pretty much an extended indie period time during that first 15 minutes where they're actually going to work gap and down blocks. And this is one thing that I felt strongly about, use that 15 minutes because in the wing tee, if you're a tackle and a tight end, you better be able to gap block. You better be able to down block. So, that's the time they can use. We have a progression that we do to teach that, but whatever you do, use that time to work your gap and down blocks with your tackles and your tight ends. And so how this will work, station 1 will be sweep, your sweep series. So sweep, trap, waggle for 15 minutes, and then belly, counter, and keep pass for 15 minutes. And I'll get into the amount of coaches later, but So let's go to this bad drawing that I was talking about. So again, 4 stations. So I don't know if you can see my mouse, but it's up here. I'll try to annotate it. But right here, probably in the corner of the end zone, is where we would work our tackles and tight ends. They'd be down there with 2 O-line coaches, and they would work their progression. We'd start with stance and starts like we normally do in indies, and we have some form fit to work their shoulder skills and such. But they would be down there working their gap and down blocks. We'd go from the 30 left hash with our sweep, on the 30 right hash with our trap, and we'd work towards that north end zone there. And then our waggle pass, which obviously needs the most room, we're going to work from the 40 going to the south end zone, so there's plenty of room for everybody to work. And we're going to rotate clockwise. All right. And my next slide is just a bigger, what always happens when I annotate stuff. There we go. It's just a bigger view of what I was talking about here. So, I'm all over the place, Coach. There we go. Just a bigger view of what I was talking about so you can see the field. And the next 2 slides are just kind of showing you how we would do it in progression. So we always start with bird dog. I think it's always start to bird dog, good to bird dog. And we use 3 commands. So when I bird dog, we go first whistle, first step, second whistle, second step, third whistle, you run in your path, your series path. And that's why I say in the beginning of the year, you're going to want to probably use 20 minutes at a time, so you can really bird dog it and really hone in on the importance of your steps and the depth and the nature of the play. And then once you get into later in the year, you can kind of just roll with it and get as many repetitions as you can. So I'm actually going to get out of this, and I'm going to go to the station setup as soon as I can find my huddle here. And so I'm going to go through each station and kind of how we do it. So this would be, Coach, you can see this, right?
Yeah, we got you. Everything's perfect.
Okay, good. Just checking. Okay, so this would be where our tight ends and our offensive tackles in that first 15 minutes when we're working our sweep series, this would be our progression. So they're going to get in their grids, and this is what it would look like. We'd probably end up with about 7 or 8 kids down here in this group. So, and in larger programs and maybe more, but we're going to grid it up just like our O-line normally would when they start their indies, but they're going to really be specific on their gap steps and their down steps. And then they would go to a form fit station where they would rotate in their lines where we have a hand shield. They're going to work a gap step, rotate, next man up, gap step, form fit, rotate. And we progress from a fit and then fit and drive. And I think, I'm not telling anybody anything new, but that would be our progression down there. And this is what and everybody's working this stuff simultaneously. So these guys are down here working this while everyone else is working the stations. So you got your right tackles doing the same thing, working their gap. And once we progress from fit and then fit and drive, we go to down block and do the same thing. And if time permitted, I'd really like them to focus on this right here, our coaches. And then if time permitted and they found themselves with extra time, they would go to the 2-man and go through a similar progression of fit and drive, working their shoulder skills and their base, keeping their wide base and pounding their feet in the ground. So that's what our offensive tackles and our tight ends would be doing while everyone else is doing their stations. All right. And then when we get to the sweep station, so I thought this was, I never used this present mode and I didn't know that people moved on it, but that was pretty cool for me anyways. So these are the coaching points in our sweep station. So these blue triangles here, they're indicators of where we would have our coaches stand. And this orange right here is where we'd have a barrel. So obviously you can see we're working sweep right here. And so some of the coaching points that we're gonna look at, our O-line coach, he's gonna designate what he's gonna be right here with a hand shield. He's gonna designate what his action's gonna be. And what I mean by that is, in the wing T, I don't like to be so concrete in saying we're always going to kick this guy, because you don't know what that defender is going to do post snap. We could have to log him, and that backside guard is going to have to read the play side guard, and we can end up with a true perimeter play. But to start off, he's gonna give us a kick read with that play side guard. So he's going to designate, when we start off, he's going to designate his action to give us a kick read. And then later in the year, he can mix it up where he can squeeze, giving him a log read, and so on and so forth. So that's what he's going to do. And while he's doing that, he's going to make sure that this play side guard, this first step, has good depth. And the biggest thing we talk to our guards is head placement. Whenever you're pulling number one and we're kicking, we want to work inside out, and that head's got to be in front. Okay, we can't leave the head behind. That head's got to be in front. And so that backside guard is obviously going to work up and wrap inside to that linebacker. I don't need to teach you guys how to run sweep, but this is how we would work it and what we would look for. So me as the offensive coordinator, this is where I would stand. Okay, and I'm going to check that quarterback step that I call it a 180 pivot. Okay, and he's got to pivot off the midline, because I love giving the fullback the midline. And again, this is going back to that advantage where I say, we're going to focus on the small details of the play. And I think, this 20 series or this Buck series is so important. When that fullback takes that pivot, he's got to be off the midline, and he's got to give the fullback the midline. So he's going to get 3 stations of that. But in this first station, that's one thing that I'm going to check, is that he gets that good 180 pivot and he gets off the midline. Next is that we're going to check for a shoulder rub with the fullback. He's going to seat the ball in his belly button. Okay, he's gonna shoulder rub. We call it a shoulder rub. Obviously, we don't actually want them to hit shoulders, but a shoulder rub with the fullback for a flash fake. And we're gonna make sure that he runs back. SB is some people call him halfback, tailback. I call him setback, dive back, whatever. I call him the setback. So he's gonna run through the setback's hips and waggle out hard. And I have this in big letters here. This is the time to over exaggerate fakes. You cannot run the offense if you don't run your fakes. And so this is a great time to over exaggerate the fakes and really harp on it. And this is one reason why I love the station so much too. When I told you, when we were had our Sunday meeting, and one of the biggest things was, you guys need to be checking to make sure they're running their fakes out. That is the number one thing in these stations, is their steps and their fakes. This is the time to do it. It's hard. Sometimes it's hard to catch that stuff in team periods. And when you get in this small group, these are the things we need to harp on. So we're going to over exaggerate the fakes. The running back coach needs to check the setback's first step, and on sweep, we like our setback or a dive back, whatever you call him. He's actually going to crossover step. He's going to pivot with his play side foot, and he's going to crossover step with his outside foot, making sure that he stays in line with the fullback's heels. And then the second coaching point, this is very important. The second coaching point that running backs coach has to look for is when we make this 90-degree cut, that setback or that dive back has to get his shoulders parallel to the line of scrimmage. When your shoulders are parallel to the line of scrimmage, you can go any direction. If your shoulders stay perpendicular to the line of scrimmage when you're making that cut, you only got one way you can move. So making sure his shoulders get parallel to the line of scrimmage. And I know I'm getting into the real nitty gritty details here, and it's not the most exciting X's and O's stuff, but I think this is where you do it. This is where this stuff is important. So moving on to what we would do next. So these guys, like I said, they would travel in pods. So these are all your first level guys, whether it's one group or you got another kid mixed in there, whatever. They're going to travel to your trap station. Okay. And we have similar coaching points. Your backfield action, again, like the wing T, it's all going to look the same, but your coaching points. So again, the blue triangles here represent where our coaches are going to be. And so we're going to have our offensive line coach here in a 3 technique. Okay. And he's going to squeeze. And so we can work our good technique here. And some of the coaching points the offensive line coach is going to look for is he's going to watch the depth of the pulling guard. And that the first, probably the most important play that our first step is correct is this one. I mean, if you're too deep on your trap step, a good 3 technique or it is going to destroy your guard, and the trap is going to be no good. And this one thing about it, this trap block doesn't have to be a pancake block. You just have to get good technique. You have to get your body in good position. So again, this is where we're going to rep this. So the offensive line coach is going to watch that first step. And again, what I already talked about, we're going to check that inside out and that head placement. Even more so here, that head has to be on the inside. All right. We're kind of set up against an even front here. So if the offensive line coach feels like he can handle it, and he can also check this gap block with the center, he can. But, our left guard is going to get to the backer. And we're checking the same steps here. So our running back coach, he's going to check that fullback crossover on the midline, making sure that fullback stays down. I call it the pipe, stays down the pipe, stays down that trap path. Make sure now that our setback is the one over-exaggerating the fake. Over-exaggerating fake. And the kids are going to think you're corny, but in this one, it's important to make them do their 90-degree cut and cut upfield. Are they going to do that in the game? I don't know, but it's important to make them over-exaggerate it here so they get into that routine. And then again, your quarterback has the same steps, and you're going to check for the accuracy of those steps again. And another reason where these are good in the wing tee and practicing them in series is because it's all the same or similar steps. So, they get extra reps at these steps. Next would be our waggle station. So what we would do, we would actually keep our first tight end down at the waggle station for the first 2 rotations, and then he would go to the gap and down blocks, and we would move our second and third tight ends down to the waggle station for the last 5 minutes. But waggle is basically, I didn't want to bore you guys again with the same steps, but it's going to be very similar steps. The only difference is our fullback's going to take the path of least resistance. It's not necessarily, he doesn't necessarily need to hug the midline all the way through the line of scrimmage. Once he runs through this shoulder fake with his quarterback, he's going to take the path of least resistance and get into the flat. But so you're going to have both our wide receivers coaches down here, and they're going to check. This receivers coach is going to check the backside routes if he's got the backside play, and then our wide receivers coach to your right, he's going to check the front side routes or the play side routes. Okay, and we're gonna check the depth. We're gonna check the correctness. I don't know if I want to get into the details because everybody's probably got their own way to do it. Everybody's probably got their own way, their own route tree, and whatever they like to run. This is your basic waggle combination here from your wing tee. Our number 1 running an 8-yard corner, number 2 in the flat, number 3 an under Sam over to Mike, drag, and then our backside post. It's, again, basic wing tee combination there. But we're just to divide and conquer with our coaching staff here. Again, it's important that they watch their front side routes, and our coach watches the backside routes. And what we'll do is, with all of these, we'll rotate which side the play is called every rep. So we go one to the right, we'll come back and do it to the left. Now with waggle, we'll go to the split end, 1, then we'll come back in the same formation, go to the tight end. Then we'll flip flop and then go to the tight end on the right, and then so that's how we'll work that rotation. And so that's the complete sweep series. There is your sweep, your trap, your waggle, and all that's going to take us about, like I said earlier in the season, about 20 minutes. Later in the season, about 15 minutes. Okay, I feel like I'm talking fast. I'm gonna take a break. Whew. Okay, now, so normally about this time we give them a water break, which I'll show you in our practice plan. And like Coach alluded to earlier, we'd run them and then come back to our next station, which I'm going to get to now. Our next cluster of stations. So now what we're going to do is we're going to send our center and guards down as an O-line completely with their unit. So what we're going to do is all our O-line coaches are going to take whatever, scout or JV players that we have with our offensive line. They're going to have the team period call script, and they're going to They don't need a ball. They don't have any skill players, but they're going to run our inside game with our offensive line against whatever our scout is. So, we're playing a 4-4 that week, whatever our front is. They're going to get some extra reps before team period. They're going to have about 15 minutes. They're going to get some extra reps before team period, and getting into their scout alignment and their blocking rules. And so this is a good time. I told my coaches that this is a good time while we're doing the stations, while we're taking the 15, 20 minutes to do your stations, if in our game plan, we've talked about any modifications or adjustments we're making to the front or, whatever it may be, this is the time to talk about that and then go ahead and rep our inside run. And again, I'm big in doing things in progression. So they would start off probably, walk through, and then now we're going fast. So again, they're going to do that while we're into our stations. Okay, and now we start our belly family. So the first station, and it's going to be set up just like I showed you earlier on the field. So again, the blue represents where coaches would be. Our centers aren't here anymore, so now we're going to simulate the snap. And this is going to sound like I'm being really picky, but I don't like to do any kind of group work where you're not simulating a snap. I think it throws the timing off. I think the quarterback's just standing there with the ball, and there's no snap involved. And again, I'm probably just being picky and anal, but I just think it throws the timing off. So I would be down here simulating the snap or snapping to the quarterback. And so the running back coach, he's going to check. This is a great time. We all struggle with getting running backs to block. So this is one time you can really dig in their tails about blocking. So the running backs coach is gonna check the leverage, the hand placement. We like to let our backs hand block. We shoulder block up front. We're going to let our backs block with their hands. So their hand placement and their hip movement. We always want to read the hips. I used to have an old coach, I don't know how PG this channel is, but I used to have an old coach that says, we're going to read assholes and shoe soles. So that's where we get checking that hip movement. We tell our backs that, and so that's what we do. And while I'm down there snapping, we're going to check the lateral step from the fullback and then direct step. It's going to be a 3/4 pivot from the quarterback. And this next part is really important for the quarterback. He's going to make sure he runs through the hip. I don't like a long pause and ride on that belly. He's going to run through the hip and immediately get into his option phase. And that's important. Again, over exaggerating those fakes. Next is our counter station. Now, I will tell you, a lot of people have some different plays they run off of belly. I love to run sweep off of belly. So you don't necessarily have to have counter as a station. If you want to work something else, we'll mix in sweep. I love to run belly sweep. So, if you wanted to do something like that, you could. Or if you wanted to actually run your option, we run option off of down, not necessarily belly. It's just a tweak in the steps. So that's why I didn't have it here. But, if you do run option off of belly, probably a second station that would be great for you is to actually run your option off of belly here. But we're going to work counter. And so again, there's the coaching points in the top left corner. Our running backs coach, he's going to check that jab step and making sure that's a good inside handoff exchange. And he's going to intentionally stand here where about our offensive tackle would be. I have a theory on counters. I like them getting vertical as fast as possible. Little geometry, the fastest way between 2 points is a straight line. So the faster we can take advantage of defensive flow, that's what I like. So we're gonna give it as an aiming point here for our counter. Quarterback's coach is gonna make sure the ball gets seated. He's gonna run through the fullback's hips, but he's gonna, instead of getting into his option phase, he's gonna remain vertical and give that nice inside handoff to our setback, and then set up for counter pass and boot for counter pass. Oh, and again, we're gonna make sure that fullback is faking hard through the line of scrimmage. Okay, and our key pass station, it's similar to the Waggle station. I did add this in here, and I forgot to add them into the Waggle station. These are going to be defenders. So if you have some extra kids that you can place as defenders, because this will help us actually also rep our progression. I don't like normally just throwing on air unless we're in our indies. So this will help our quarterback, kind of, you know, get two things done at once. But we kill two birds with one stone. That's the saying I was looking for. So, anyways, we're going to run through our belly steps, and we're going to go our high, low, middle read. And so that'll help our quarterback progress through. So we're going to check the depth and correctness of our routes, and our other coach there is going to check the quarterback footwork, progression, and make sure he fakes hard into the line of scrimmage. Okay. Let me go back to. So I know that was I talk kind of fast when I get going, and it may not be the X's and O's stuff, but I think that stuff's really important when you get into the nitty gritty of your play structure. Your fakes, your steps, the structure is really important. So this is actually a plan from last year, or well, I guess this year, when we were installing our wing tee for our last week of the year. We're working off of an hour and a half practice here because in December the sun was getting real low and we didn't have lights. So we're working off an hour and a half, but this is again basically how we would work it in. And this is last year's practice plan. So you can see where we work it in 2 20-minute periods, and then we have our 30-minute team period at the end. The next one I'm going to show you is an example of how I'm going to utilize it next year. And so you can see the time difference. I put 9 a.m. This will be something we do in our next year in preseason. So we do, start with our warm up. We're going to start with indies. This is based off an hour and 45, 2-hour practice. There's conditioning lines that I talked about last time, Coach. We're working them in here. Okay, and then we get to our Buck Series station. We're going to do 20 minutes for that. Again, our water and our sprint lines. Go to our Belly Series station for 20 minutes. Again, our water and our sprint lines. Go to team. Now, as an offensive guy just like me, Coach, I'm sure you know that 20 minutes probably is going to end up being longer down there at the team period, and I'm going to have defensive guys hollering at me. But and then we get into our closing thoughts. So, Coach, maybe not as long as intended, but that's what I have for you tonight, man.
Well, I tell you, man, this is an air raid channel, and I'm an air raid guy, but I absolutely love the entire concept. I mean, the efficiency of it, the details, the way you can pound the details during those stations. I love it. The amount of repetitions you're probably getting in there is probably extremely high.
Oh yeah.
And I'm on your back on the forcing your coaches to coach in those stations. I think it's that is as close to brilliant as I've ever seen as far as organizing and really teaching the details and the nuts and bolts of an offense. I told you, man, I like the way you think, and that was truly impressive, even for an air raid guy looking at wing tee stuff.
Well, yeah, I appreciate it, Coach, and one thing I learned, and especially being a young stubborn guy, is that I would get frustrated. I want my coaches to do this, I want my coaches to do that, and one thing I learned is you got to put them in positions to do it. So I thought that was a great way to do it, and it seemed to work out. So,
no, I thought it was a master stroke. Talk one more time about your YouTube channel.
Yeah, man. So my YouTube channel is Coach E. If you enjoyed this video, please check me out. Got some interesting videos on there. I got some spread stuff on there because I've run spread and wing tee. Definitely not as well as Coach here, but if you're looking for some simple stuff, that's kind of my forte. So check me out.
Well, you did absolutely fantastic, man, and I really do. I love the way you think. I love the way you organize things, and that conditioning video is what caught my attention, but this was absolutely high level elite stuff. You did a great job.
I appreciate it, Coach. Thank you.
Thanks for being on here, buddy.